Hey up everybody, my name's Joshua Morrison, director of Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence, and today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about making music, particularly how you can make a lot of music in a short space of time. And you know how you sort of see artists and musicians and you see that they come out with an album maybe every 3 or 4 years and you think, bloody hell, why does it take so long for them to actually make stuff? Well, there's a good reason for it in the, they've got the marketing side towards everything, they need to get everything done that way and they want to perfect everything because they have an audience, they have something to lose if they put out a load of shite. If you put out a load of shite, you have nothing to lose. So what's to stop you from just putting out a load of shite? Which is exactly what I did. When I started to learn instruments, I just began making music and releasing it, because I feel like the best way to actually improve and to do stuff is just to put as much out as humanly possible. So in 2020, I put out my first album, and then I also put out my second, third, fourth and fifth albums. And then 2021, I put out my 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th albums. And then 2022, I put out another 5 albums. And then 2023, I think I put out 3 albums. And then this year, I think I put out 4. Something like that. I don't really remember exactly how many. But the way that I kind of did that is I've sat down and I thought about what is an album. An album is about 10 to 15 sort of songs, maybe a bit less if you've got like longer pieces, like 10, 15, 20-minute pieces. Maybe you can have an album with like 2, 3 songs on it. And so I just started making as much stuff as possible. If I wanted to learn a new little musical idea, say I wanted to learn the Dorian mode, I made a song with the Dorian mode. I Googled Dorian mode, B, guitar, and then I looked at it and I practiced it a little bit, and then I made a song experimenting with it, and then I did another 20 songs experimenting with that, and then I would sit in one sort of scale and I would get acclimatized to it and comforted by it. And then once I knew it inside and out, I would move on to another one, and then another one, and another one, almost like learning parts of a language, like learning vowels and then learning like the number, like counting in another language and stuff like that. So honestly, I would say to make music, just explore the general tenets of music theory. Don't necessarily have to learn music theory, but just explore one topic at a time. Like, do you want to figure out tempo? Well, maybe make a song where you experiment with 2 tempos and you kind of maybe go a little bit faster for the chorus and maybe a bit slower for the verses. Maybe try something, if you want to mess around with structure, try, foregoing the verse, chorus, bridge, chorus thing, and maybe doing like verse, chorus, weird instrumental, crescendo, ambient section, chorus, verse, outro, post-outro, something like that, just try weird stuff like that. If you wanted to do something where you want to mess around with weird ethnic tonalities, look up a fun tonality and just mess around with it. You don't need to make it all sound good. It doesn't necessarily need to sound good. It just needs to sound like you, really. And because, look, here's the thing. I feel like I've made an awful lot of crap music. I feel like everything in 2020, everything in 2021, everything in 2022 is completely unlistenable as far as I'm concerned. But sometimes I get a message from someone sort of going, oh, bumping this track at the moment, really good, man. And I'll look at it. And it's a song that I did like in 2021, and I'll listen to it. And the bass is completely blaring everything out, and it sounds like the guitar's out of time, or like something's out of key, or my singing is absolutely god-awful. And like, these sort of things. So as far as I'm concerned, it's complete garbage. But other people don't necessarily see that because they're not as critical of your work as you are, because you know yourself inside and out. You know your journey, you know where you've gone, you know how you've improved since then, you know where you went wrong there, and so on and so forth. And so I feel like if you want to try and improve, all you need to do is just put yourself out there and allow yourself to be vulnerable and see what happens, because it's music at the end of the day. If you put out some crap music, I don't think it's really the end of the world. Someone will listen to it, not like it, and they'll get on with their day. And if you feel like you've gotten really good to the point where your previous stuff is holding you back, just start a new band name. Just make up a new name for yourself or a new pseudonym. I've gone through loads of pseudonyms. And it's a nice way of just uploading stuff to Bandcamp under a new pseudonym. And also you can kind of go back to your previous stuff and do little compilation albums under your new pseudonym with some of your best tracks and kind of compile your best stuff and filter out a load of the crap that you actually put out, because there's a couple songs that I did in the past that were quite good. So, I put those together in a compilation, just the good stuff. And then, in a few years, maybe I start another pseudonym because I don't like the stuff that I'm doing now. And then I'll have more of a backlog, so I'll be able to do a couple more compilations under the new name. And I can just keep doing that until maybe, who knows, one day people might actually start finding this music and start actually listening to it. And also try and find your voice. you'll recognize what your voice is probably a couple years in. I would say if you keep at it quite regularly, you'll find out what you're doing and what your voice is and why you're making music a couple years in and what sets you apart from the general crowd. And at first it will feel like that's you making mistakes, and it will feel like you're trying to be part of a sound, but you're failing. But it's not necessarily that. It's that's you. That's how you sound. Like, no one sounded like Syd Barrett, for instance. Does that mean that Syd Barrett was a bad musician and he just needed to work harder and practice more so that he could sound more like someone else? You know, was Frank Zappa doing something wrong? No, these people found their own creative lane and they went into it and they did stuff that was quite fun with it. Like Bob Dylan, for instance, he made a lot of music with very, very basic music theory. Maybe not necessarily the best singer or the best guitarist or the best harmonica player, whatever. I'm not saying he was bad by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm just saying, you know, it wasn't about the technical ability. It was about the creative storytelling capabilities that man had, because he was an absolutely amazing lyricist. He still is an amazing lyricist and still an amazing songwriter, to the point where other musicians would come along and like cover his tracks because they were just amazing, amazing songs. Like, you have something in you, somewhere in your repertoire of ability is something that makes you compared to everybody else, that makes you unique amongst a sea of other voices. Everyone's got that thing, and if you figure out what that thing is and hone in on that thing and carve out a space for yourself, then you'll be doing something pretty well. You'll be on the right track. So what I think you should do is, after this video, just make a song. Doesn't matter if it's good. Just set out to do it quickly, because I found that some of my favorite songs are the ones I just rush out, and the ones that I spend weeks or months working on sometimes don't turn out to be the best ones. It just comes down to what happens. If you make as much stuff as possible, some of it's bound to be good, because you keep throwing darts at the dartboard, you're bound to hit bullseye eventually. That's the way I see it. And there's nothing wrong with doing it that way, because the more you create, the more you learn of yourself. And I think that's a really great way of expressing your own sense of self and figuring yourself out, because who are you in terms of your taste in music? Well, you can find that out pretty quickly by making music, and you'll figure out what your taste is pretty bloody quickly at that point. Like, I've got a fairly eclectic taste. I think everyone's got a fairly eclectic taste. And, you know, I'd like to try and make songs that cover as many aspects of that taste as possible. I'd love, like, at the moment I'm into a lot of political sort of hip-hop sort of stuff, like Akala and Loki and like Immortal Technique and stuff like that. Now, obviously, I am not going to start rapping, but I would love to get a rapper on board and maybe like work on some beats and do stuff like that. I've never done music like that. I've tended to stick in the krautrock, prog rock, sort of psych rock kind of lane for the longest time, but I'd like to explore new sort of things. I'd like to make pop songs, I'd like to make R&B, I'd like to make some lo-fi, sad boy sort of stuff. Try stuff, just try all these various things. I'm not actually very into lo-fi, sad boy stuff, but it's quite easy to make, to be honest, and it's quite satisfying going into the thing and just working a lot of it through the door. So sometimes you do stuff just as a technical creative exercise, sometimes you do stuff because you've got a specific message you want to get out there, sometimes you just want to experiment with your instrument, and so you make an excuse to experiment with that instrument. Say you've just figured out tremolo picking, so you make a song where you do a lot of tremolo picking. Say you do a song where you figure out hammer-ons quite well, so you do a lot of hammer-ons. Say you figure out a song and you play piano and you figured out some really cool boom 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 sort of thing. Just, you know, do all of these various things. You can do stuff like that, because you can make music quite simply. If you don't have any resources whatsoever, you can even go in GarageBand if you've got an iPhone, or you can download Reaper for free and just work within the MIDI. You can do whatever the hell you want. You can record stuff on your phone and then upload it to your laptop and then take it into Audacity and put the pull stretch effect on things, which can then lead you to creating these really ambient soundscapes. You can do so much stuff. You could do field recordings. You could do, you know, spoken word sort of stuff with like little beats underneath it. You could try and figure out like lo-fi hip hop, or you could try, you know, getting a bit of a band together and just recording your jam sessions. You could do so much, and there's so many ways of, you know, getting into music, and there's no right or wrong way of actually starting music, and there's no right or wrong way of doing what you love. So that's basically the message I've got here, which is just make as much as you possibly can, because the more you make, the better you'll get at it, compared to if you worry about trying to make the perfect thing, because you'll do that. You'll spend all that time trying to perfect that one thing, and all you've done there is teach yourself rather than teach and apply that knowledge. Because the thing that you make afterwards, make that thing afterwards very, very quickly compared to the thing that took you ages. And see if that thing you made very, very quickly is something where you've taken the lessons from what came before, applied those lessons in creative and novel ways, and possibly come out with a better product. So that's essentially it. That's the message of this video. Get out there, make stuff, do it now, do it now. So yeah, thank you very much for watching this video. Hope you have a great rest of the day. And yeah, pick up your instrument, have some fun with it. And yeah, upload it for the rest of us to see, because there's not enough music out there that's you know, genuine from the heart, from people like us, you know. So yeah, take care everybody. Bye bye.